Maza.
First of all, thank you so much for the introduction. I appreciate that. Good to see so many of you this morning. Hope we're all starting off on a good foot this morning. Always good to see so many of you, a lot of Alhambra residents, of course, and it's always just a pleasure to see so many fellow realtors. So I want to thank you all for the invitation this morning. As said previously, my name is Maza. I am a 20-year residential broker. Started quite young in the business, and it's my passion, it's my career. There have been times when I've questioned myself in terms of 2008, 7, I guess, you all remember those years and those times. Question maybe leaving the business, but at the end of the day, love what I do. Proud of being a realtor, and just nice to be here in a room full of fellow realtors this morning. So again, I've lived in the city of Alhambra since I was a child. Seen a lot of progress over the years in Alhambra. Seen some enormous changes, and just love how the city has become very culturally diverse over the years. I've been there since the late 70s, so of course I've seen a number of changes over the years. So I've been part of the Alhambra City Council now for about 1.5 years, and can tell you that I'm thoroughly amazed at how things work behind the scenes, how complex it is to run a city, and all of the issues that the city staff deals with on a day-to-day basis. And I'm proud and honored to be a part of making some of these changes and advocating for new legislation within our city, and just very honored to hold this position. So what I'd like to do this morning is kind of go through a list and take you through some of the things that we've been working on over the last 1.5 years. A lot of these issues that are extremely relevant to us, and obviously are extremely current. So the first thing, obviously, that we've all heard about and is on the news lately is the coronavirus. So this is something that in the past few weeks, has seen a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion as far as the information that is out there. I can tell you that our city at this point is just following the lead of Los Angeles County. The city's just keeping information current on websites, via social media, etc., Facebook, Instagram, and just following a lot of the recommendations from Los County officials. And so at this point, I know that there are a few cities that are considering potentially calling for a state of emergency within their cities. I know Pasadena was one of those cities that called for that, I believe, yesterday, the day before. Alhambra currently is staying put, and we'll see what happens here in the next few days. But definitely for information, stay tuned on the city's website, and of course a lot of the social media, a lot of good information there. The other thing, obviously, that a lot of you are probably familiar with, either through the city of Alhambra or through your particular cities, is in our city called Measure AL. So this was a measure that would increase sales tax within our city by 3/4 cent. I'm proud to say that the measure did pass. It passed by a vote of about 63%. That was the last count. I'm not sure if that's at 100% yet, but it's going to be very close, 63, 64%. I know that there were a number of cities that were facing very similar measures, or the same measure, different names. And this was something that we saw a lot of different opinions about. We had, obviously nobody likes new taxes, and although it wasn't a huge percentage, it makes a difference. So we're talking 75 cents for every $100 that is spent. We heard from different members of our city. We heard from business owners that obviously were not for it because they felt like it might affect their business. But at the end of the day, the Alhambra City Council unanimously voted to put this measure on the ballot, and mostly due to the fact that if Alhambra didn't do it, then there was a big possibility that LA County would do this and put it on the ballot in November of 2020. So it was either we take measures to pass it now and keep the funds in Alhambra now, or potentially have Los Angeles County do the same and have control of those funds in November. So obviously we opted to keep the funds in Alhambra. Luckily, our residents pushed for the same, and proud to say that that measure passed. It's going to help our city tremendously. The funds are designated for a number of things. One of those things being, so for example, lost my train of thought, sorry. Police and fire, infrastructure, obviously fixing all our roads. We've got a big push to replace a lot of our sidewalks or curbs, improve our parks. So, really just to improve our city, we're talking approximately $8.1 million per year. So it's quite a bit of money that can definitely improve our city. One of the questions was, how is this money going to be spent? I gave you just a brief list of how that might be spent here in the upcoming years. But, accountability, I think that the city is very transparent in how these funds are to be used and designated. And, anyone that has any questions about how these funds will be used, welcome to always, approach city council, your city manager, or, just come and obviously request any public records to make sure that those funds are going in the right direction. But again, proud that that measure passed. The other thing that we've been working on and pushing for, I think very important for you all as realtors, the fact that you've got so many clients, that you know so many people, is talking about the 2020 census. So that is coming up. The census should be final in May, roughly, of this year. There's a big push to get information out there to the public and to make sure that everyone understands that it is important for them to be counted. So, one of the things is obviously with so many immigrants in our cities and, so many people worried about, families' immigrational status, there's a fear that there may be people that don't want to be counted. Hopefully we can all spread the word that there are no questions that will deal with immigration status on the census questionnaire. It's a very simple questionnaire. And again, at the end of the day, it's very important for all of us to be counted, for all of us to get the word out, for family members, neighbors, whatnot, to be counted. Obviously, the census helps us allocate federal funds towards our individual cities, our counties. It helps with so many different, WIC, for example, for mothers that are single that may not have the funds to properly feed their kids, so just some important things that the funds will be allocated for. So again, important to be counted and important for us to get the word out and do whatever we can in it. One of the other topics that's been big on our city council agenda, and I think it is also for a lot of cities, is affordable housing. So affordable housing has been discussed quite frequently in the city of Alhambra and surrounding cities. It's a tough topic because although we would love to see there be affordable housing for those that need it, the issues that we face is just a lack of options. We'd love to see multiple affordable housing projects in Alhambra. We're a very dense city, as is, for example, the city of San Gabriel, Monterey Park. So options with land, options with funds, a lot of things to consider. But at the end of the day, not as easy as it may seem to get these projects off the ground. Recently, I think this was back in October of this past year, the Alhambra City Council did approve and vote for the city's first affordable housing project. And I say the city's because this was going to be built on city land. So this project was approved as a 42-unit supportive housing project. We were hoping and are still hoping that the project will serve, when it's built and wherever it may be built, that it'll serve primarily Alhambra residents. Unfortunately, we don't have necessarily a voice or a choice in how those units may be allocated. They really are there in Alhambra, but could potentially serve anyone in LA County. So Going back to this project, approved as a 42 unit right off of Main Street and 2nd. I think the entire council felt that it was, a good way to kick off affordable housing. The land was already owned by the city, and so ultimately, I think the resources were there to get this off the ground. Once this was approved to get looked at, to get planned out, we heard from a lot of business owners that felt that this may not be adequately placed. We have to consider obviously disruption to businesses. A lot of businesses in our downtown are facing a decline in sales, a decline in restaurants, of course, in sales as well. And so just the interruption in business, a lot of businesses claiming maybe a 30% drop in business over the last year and a half or two. So the point that it's important for City Council and the city to consider all of its constituents, all of its residents, business owners, and at the end of the day, find that happy medium for this to be done. So again, affordable housing, very important for City Council, the city. The challenge is, of course, placement, and I think that's what we're looking at potentially with this project on 2nd and Main. The fact that people feel that it may not be suitably placed, and at this point we are looking for other options to get that done and started. So stay tuned for what happens there, but again, very important for us to at least get the ball rolling on affordable housing. Also, we've got, and we're looking at a preservation ordinance as well. So the City of Alhambra hasn't had a preservation ordinance. This is an ordinance that would protect certain structures, be it commercial or residential structures within the City of Alhambra. Also a sensitive subject, because you've got people that are advocating for obviously preserving these structures, which is important. Our heritage, our city's heritage is important. It's important to preserve it, but it is also, as we understand as realtors, to also preserve private property rights and allow people to do what they deem is best with their individual property. So it's sensitive, and at the end of the day, we're looking to find that happy medium, a place where those who want to preserve their properties will have some advantages to doing so, and then at the same time allowing people to have the freedom of doing what they want with their properties as well. So that is something that we've had a first reading on. We felt as a council that it needed to come back, it needed additional information, additional research, and so we will be reviewing that later on this year. Another thing that's important, I think this is probably one of the most important things that I've heard, at least in the last few years, at least for us as realtors, is the split roll tax. So this is something that was presented to the Alhambra City Council about 4 or 5 months ago. I'm not sure if you're all familiar with the split roll tax, but essentially what this would do is basically tax or revise the taxation, property taxation for commercial properties. So this would potentially take properties that were purchased maybe back in the 70s, 80s, that have a tax base based on that purchase price, would reassess them to today's value, and of course increase those property taxes for commercial properties. So the presentation that we had, I believe there were primarily teachers, and they were pushing for this to happen because obviously it would now allocate a lot of these funds towards education, schools, community colleges, etc., which of course, education is important to us all, I think. Not to say that it's not, but I think most importantly is realizing what the split roll tax could do and the effects that it could have. So I think that conversations that I've had with people, I feel as a realtor myself as well, is that this could be a precursor to getting rid of our Prop 13 residential protection. And so we have to be very cautious of what we do and how we approach this split roll. I, as a business owner, having an office on Main Street in Alhambra and being on a triple net lease would be one of those that would be affected by this. So, there's a lot of consequences that could come out of having the split roll tax. Just having at the end of the day, this cost be passed on to the tenant of the property, which would then eventually either cause them to either pass it on to the consumer, which would affect people's bottom lines at home, or just cause them to shut their doors. So we have to be very cautious. I think we're in a very sensitive time right now with regards to businesses, with a lot of retail, of course, closing because of just internet sales. And so we have to be very cautious as to how we approach this. And I definitely invite you all to do your research on split roll and make sure that you get the proper information out there, because a lot of times how it's presented is that it's obviously for education, which I say very important. I think it is for all of us that have children, even young adults in college. But I don't think that the split roll tax is necessarily the way to approach additional funds for education. So please do your research on that and make sure that you pass the word on that. Some of what's been happening in Alhambra, so these are just little updates. Recently, we were awarded a $112,000 grant to install 18 charging stations in our city. These are things that make it more convenient for people. I believe we had no charging stations before this, so these are going to go into our 3 bigger parking structures in the downtown Alhambra area. The project should be completed roughly by May, so definitely something that is improving our city, and hopefully will invite people to do a little bit more shopping, dining in the city of Alhambra. So again, completion on that is May of this year. Another thing that is important, as many of you have maybe used for your clients, for yourselves, I know that I've used it with cities where it's available, as in the city of Los Angeles, for example, automated building permits. So Alhambra is currently working on a system to have automated building permits within the city of Alhambra. I think this is something that's going to be huge. It'll make it a lot easier for people to transact their building permits. It'll free up a lot of staff time to now obviously use a little bit more adequately, and just make it easier for us as realtors. If we ever help our people, our clients navigate building permits, whether it be a new build, a remodel. I know that I've been involved in that a lot of times with my clients, and so having this be automated and online would be extremely helpful. Another thing, I think that this past year I've seen a lot of very important issues to realtors come in front of our city council. A lot of things such as things that I think of short-term rental ordinance. I don't know how many of you have worked with people that are buying properties with the intention of maybe putting them on short-term rentals. So as an example, Airbnb. This is an ordinance that came before the city council recently. It's still in the very initial stages. We don't know which direction it's going to go yet. I think we need to do a little bit more research, but this is one of those topics. Of course, the split roll tax came before city council, affordable housing, rent control. So these are some of the big topics that we saw this past year. And I think for us as realtors, it is extremely important for us to get involved, to show up to some of your local city council meetings, speak up, and advocate for what you think is right. Whether it be on one side of the issue or the other, I think it's very important for you to actually present your opinions. It helps us as council members to just make better decisions, informed decisions, but just getting the word out there. At the end of the day, it affects us all in the long run, and so it's very important for us to all get out there and just get involved. I mean, it could be as short as half an hour, it could be as long as a few hours, but I think it helps us learn a lot of the current issues, topics that we can now inform our clients about, and again, just fighting for what we as realtors feel is right. So definitely encourage you all and invite you all to show up to your city council meetings. These tend to happen twice a month, and your different days and dates in your individual cities. But look up your city's website and go out there and get involved, show up and speak up. So That is, one other thing, and I think I mentioned this briefly, but we've had a big push in our city in the past year to go out and repair, replace a lot of our curbs, a lot of our sidewalks, a lot of our streets. Happy to say that, I mean, I've seen a handful of streets in Alhambra that have been repaved, look great, and of course, you know, it's important for us all because it increases property values and it makes it more inviting for people to buy property in our cities. So, you know, something that we're very proud of. A lot of the funds that we currently have and hopefully will have will be dedicated to, you know, continuous improvement of our streets, sidewalks. Obviously, you know, diminish some of that liability with aging sidewalks, buckling, some of the buckling sidewalks, broken curbs. And so proud to say that we've got a big push in the city of Alhambra and are seeing a big difference in and around the city. So, you know, just very excited. I think it's been a very exciting and eye-opening year for me this past year and a half. As a resident, sometimes, you know, I always say we can look at different issues in a very different way until you get involved and see what is really happening more deeply on some of these issues. So, you know, just a lot of respect for our city staff, our city directors. I can tell you that, you know, on our city council, everyone has the city's best intentions at heart. And we're looking to, you know, just continuously improve our cities. It's been great to be able to meet other council members from other local cities, Monterey Park, San Gabriel, South Pasadena, you know, Temple City, Arcadia, etc. And I think there's a lot that we can all do together. You know, just collaborate to make our cities better a little at a time. A lot of issues such as traffic that I think we can come together on and maybe improve. I think that's something that we'd all like to see, is the improvement of traffic, you know, maybe traffic light coordination, synchronization, something that, again, going back to just being a resident, you know, you say, well, you know, I'd like to reach out to my city, city council, public works, and ask them to improve our traffic lights. I found out that unfortunately it's not as simple as making a request to your city to have these lights be resynchronized. It goes deeper than that. It's more of a county effort, and a lot of your local cities have to be taken into consideration because, of course, at the end of the day, it's an issue that affects us all. You know, a lot of these streets run, of course, through a number of cities, and so at the end of the day, it's important for all of these cities and their city councils and staff to work together to try to improve not just Alhambra, but the entire area, San Gabriel Valley. So again, just very proud to be serving my city as mayor. Time is flying. I think I'm already 3 months in at this point. Have about another 6 months left, but looking to do a lot of great things. I'm always here to any of you that you know, have comments, concerns, opinions, whether you be a resident of Alhambra or just a local city, always here open. I think the rest of our council is as well. And so I'm open to questions. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's a property at 924 East Main Street. It's a two-story commercial office building. 2 years ago, it burned down. It burned. Right. It's sitting there vacant. It's an absolute eyesore to the entire neighborhood. I've called the city fire department and asked about it. They referred me to code enforcement. I called code enforcement. They suggested I contact the fire department. I called the city manager. She said she'd look into it. Nothing's done. I just yesterday sent another letter to the city manager to put her on notice that there's also a traffic hazard where they put the fence up and the kids walking in the alley behind it are subject to getting hit by cars going in and out of the driveway. So I think city's going to be liable for that, number one. But also, don't you have some kind of ordinance that allows you to go in and demolish something if the people refuse to do it? The city manager says she thinks it's an insurance problem, but she's not sure, and really didn't seem that enthused about my question. Have you ever driven by there and seen that?
I have, yeah,
building?
you're talking right off of Granada and Main, right across from McDonald's, yeah, I know the building, yeah. So perhaps you could call code enforcement or the fire, I'm just kidding. No, I will definitely make note of that. I've thought about the building on many occasions as well, and I think that, something better can be done with what's there now. It is an eyesore. I think it's been about 1.5 years now. Or 2 years, yeah, so time flies. But no, I appreciate you mentioning that. I will definitely make it a point. Perhaps we can connect after this and maybe come together on trying to at least make it look better. As far as demolishing it, I know that obviously through code enforcement can be done, but takes quite a bit of time. But we can definitely get a status on it and figure out what we can do to make it look better, and of
Let's
course,
get started.
yeah, diminish the issues there. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Hi, good morning, Ross.
Good morning.
By the way, thank you for waving at me at the Rose Parade.
No, thank you.
New Year's Eve. But the question I have on Fremont, right on above Mission, there is that empty lot, and there was a proposition. I wasn't here, I was at the other meeting, but I don't know if you touched based on what's going on with Fremont empty lot, what has happened.
So you're talking.
The units that they were thinking, which I believe they were planning to do some units there, they were going to present, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
what-
So there's two.
For Lowe's?
Yeah. So there's two. So there's of course the empty lot that was proposed for Lowe's. That is on the west side of Fremont, and that was proposed about 3 years ago. If we're talking about that, where the Kohl's is, just north of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, the one right,
Right.
north of Coles on that side.
Right. So as many of you know, that was proposed to be a Lowe's and also some office buildings there. That was about 3 years ago that was approved by the Planning Commission. That became a legal issue, unfortunately, with a group that opposed the building of that there. And so ultimately, Lowe's decided not to build anything there. At this point, there is some talk of other people that may be interested, and potentially Lowe's still being interested in going back in and maybe doing a small redesign to what was originally proposed and putting that Lowe's in there. So, we're hoping that within this year, 2020, something will come of it, something will be approved, and we'll know exactly what may be going there. Again, this is not official. These are just some of the things that we've heard about, but there's talk about putting a potentially Chick-fil-A in there, a Lowe's, and redesigning some of the buildings for storage and some office buildings. So, I think that this has been a very blighted area in Alhambra for a while. Obviously the issue there and the concern always is traffic. What do you do about traffic, because it's already a congested area. So, we'll see as it comes through, but that is that is one of the possibilities, is that Lowe's may come back in, a small redesign, a Chick-fil-A, and so we're hopeful that something will happen there, and that I'm sorry. Oh, maybe, okay. And that'll happen soon. So I'll take some quick, Mr. Lieber.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Maza, for
Thank
being here today, and we appreciate having a voice on council.
Thank you so much. I
as
appreciate
somebody
that.
who's very abreast of our issues, and we appreciate that. Came to life recently with a couple of issues. You were very helpful.
Thank you.
We are adamantly opposed to a split roll.
Yes.
So that's, we've got a pretty well-informed audience on that one. With regard to Airbnb, we're a little more split, but we still lean towards property owners' rights, and it affects property values.
Of course.
And then one just comment though, lifelong resident of Alhambra, and I've heard numerous people recently say that Alhambra is not business friendly anymore. And I don't know when we went from being such a good, strong business community to so anti-business. I see this, it's a minority of people that come to the council meetings that are very vocal. They seem to be anti-everything that the council's trying to do or the community's trying to do. And it just concerns me. So I don't know, and I don't know if it goes deeper than that, Anyways.
No, I appreciate you mentioning that. Number one, and I know we're very limited on time here, but I want to make sure that, people know that as far as myself, I can speak for myself. I do advocate for businesses. I think businesses are extremely important. I mean, at the end of the day, part of Alhambra, and we need to make sure that we do whatever we can to support these businesses in every way possible, and know that, at least for myself, and I'm sure I can speak for the rest of the council, businesses are important for us, and we will continue to do what we can. But we certainly don't want that to be the case. We want to be business friendly. Businesses are important. So, and as far as everything else that you mentioned, I appreciate that, and we'll continue to do what we can. And so that's why on some of these issues, it is important for all of us, to come out and speak up at city council meetings, voice our opinions, our concerns, and help inform us. I'm sorry. One last question.
Yes, can you update with us about the status of the ADU in Alhambra?
Yes.
What is the ADU from the city council perspective?
Right, so that's the accessory dwelling unit. So city council, we have, at this point, we've got an overlay on top of the state's ordinance at this point, which basically, when I say overlay, it means that, obviously ADUs can be built on Alhambra, but they have to be kept within certain guidelines, certain lot size, you have to occupy the units. But I know that we're short on time here. I can definitely speak to you on this afterwards, but we have had an increase, substantial increase in ADU applications over the last.
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
A lot of cities are moving the public comment to the beginning rather than 11:30 at night. And it allows people to say, here's what I want to see from our city.
Sure.
I don't know if you sit there and wait till 11:30, nobody's there to hear that.
Absolutely.
Just a lot of cities are considering that. We're considering legislation to move that too.
I appreciate that. I think we're always open to that possibility, and of course, if anybody ever has special needs where they need to speak up at the beginning of a meeting, they can certainly make that request, and we would be open to accommodating them. So thank you for mentioning that. So thank you all for having me here this morning.
Mary Audrey. Good morning, WSGVR family and guests. It is with a sorrow heart that I bring the news to you that Nick Baldry has stepped down as our association president due to personal issues. I will be stepping in a lot earlier than expected as acting president. I would like to read you. I would like to share this with all of you. The road less traveled, the path less explored leads you to new dimensions, sets you up for new goals, open your heart to new capabilities. Nature has its own way to heal your soul. Take resources to her when you can't deal with the idiosyncrasies of life, and mind becomes restless due to endless strives. Solo travel is time you give yourself. So take the untrodden path. It surely will rejuvenate you, make you positive and bold. By Priya. Agree. I also like to thank the Education Committee. We have 25 realtors members attend the CCIM class this week here. CCIM is, for those who doesn't know, CCIM 101 is a financial analysis for commercial investment real estate. CI 101 introduced the CCIM cash flow model, a tool for ensuring your investment decisions and based on wise finance fundamentals. During the course, you will learn how to use key financial concepts such as IRR, internal rate of return, net present value, NPV, cap rate, capital accumulation, and the annual growth rate of capital to compare different types of commercial real estate investment. Thank you. I also, don't forget, there's a general meeting next Thursday, 9:30, following the MLS breakfast meeting to inform you the 3 Uplake properties that our board of directors is considering for 1031 exchange. Thank you very much.